Here to react is senior policy analyst Hadley Heath Manning and former Democratic Party chairman for Washington, D.C., A. Scott Bolden. Scott, I'll go to you first because there is a gotcha element in the media. There were three big stories this week in addition to the actual firing that followed the firing of Comey. The first one that we kept hearing a lot about is the Rod Rosenstein letter, which made the case against Comey. And the story was that that what's happening here is that the letter itself didn't really call for the resignation of Mr. Comey. But here are the last two sentences of that letter. The FBI is unlikely to regain public and congressional trust until it has a director who understands the gravity of the mistakes and pledges never to repeat them again. The director cannot be expected to implement the necessary corrective actions. I mean, isn't that a recommendation that someone should be fired? The press says no. I say yes. You say what?
I say that that leaves it an open question for the president, but it gives him the pathway to terminate James Comey.
Yeah, but it's a recommendation for termination. I mean, that's asking for him to be fired, right?
Well, you could certainly draw that. In fact, if I were him, I would draw that. But here's the deal, though. Why was James Comey terminated? The president and the White House controlled this message. We've heard 3 or 4 different reasons. And in fact, with Lester Holt, he talked about how the investigation of the campaign and Russian collusion was going, and he was unhappy with Comey. I really don't know what to believe here, Scott, but that statement is a problem for him.
I agree with you that there is a question. I agree with you there's a question of why he was fired, but that it leads to another either mistake or out-and-out falsehood that the media came out with this week, that Trump fired Comey because the FBI was devoting more resources to the Russia investigation. I'm reading from a news story here, when in fact we had a a meeting in Congress between the Senate and members of the administration involved in all this. Senator Susan Collins asked Mr. McCabe, the acting director of the FBI, about this. Here's the exchange.
Press reports yesterday indicated that Director Comey requested additional resources.
I cannot confirm that request was made. I strongly believe that the Russia investigation is adequately resourced.
So there again, a premise of a press story that the reason that Comey was fired was because he was putting in more resources to the Russia investigation is wrong. We heard it from the horse's mouth.
Okay, but wait a minute now. That's one source. You heard it from the horse's mouth.
That's one source. That's the acting director of the FBI. His wife is a big Democrat.
It may be more reliable than other sources that the media has.
Scott, he's right there. He is right. We know that McCabe is trusted by Democrats because his wife is a big Democrat. She got a lot of money from the Democrat governor of Virginia. This guy is not a Republican plant.
Hey, listen, you got lots of sources out here for lots of different media sources, and they go with it.
The acting director of the FBI is not a source. He is somebody speaking on record. Okay, we have one more presser to talk about here. The Washington Post quoted one anonymous source reporting that Rosenstein resigned because he was upset at Trump and the way he handled the Comey investigation. But Michelle Macaluso from the Sinclair Broadcasting Group caught up with Mr. Rosenstein, asked him about this, and here's what happened.
Mr. Rosenstein, did you threaten to quit over the Comey fallout? Can you say as to why you...
No, I'm not quitting.
Did you threaten to quit? No.
He didn't. The Washington Post could have gone to the horse's mouth again and asked him. They didn't. Instead, they relied on one anonymous source in the Justice Department.
Well, it doesn't sound like the horse was willing to talk to too many people, even in that particular interview.
He said no. He answered definitively no. What's not to understand about the word no, Scott?
Well, we understand no, but we don't know whether the Washington Post was able to get a yes or a no from him, and I'm sure they had other sources. Listen, newspapers get stuff wrong all the time.
One anonymous source. Even the Watergate guys demanded two.
Let me jump in. Let me say this, okay? Donald Trump and the White House and his communications team could fix all of this, if you will. You know what? Say what the truth is, stick with it, have one message, and then you won't have the media looking at a million different sources.
Sean Spicer's pretty good, but I don't think he can correct the mistakes made by the mainstream media. Do you really?
He has to defend something that is indefensible, and that's Donald Trump's
The mainstream media can't defend their own front-page reports.
He lies all the time. and they're playing catch up with him. That's why he hates the media,
Okay.
and that's
Scott,
why the media has
clearly
to
the
run for
press
other
needs
sources.
to clean up their act as well. But we thank you for coming. Have a wonderful Mother's Day, Scott, all right?
You too. Thank you.
All right, thank you.